Alright everyone, welcome to Deep Dives with Dogs. Well, the day I'm recording this is April 21st, on this day on 1509, will be the topic of our video today, and that is the rise to kingship of one of the most famous kings in history, or you could say infamous, King Henry VIII of England. So, King Henry VIII, obviously, very well-known king, mostly for his divorces. He's probably most well-known for that. But his father, King Henry VII, dies. Henry VIII was not meant to be king initially. He had a brother. That brother passed away from things, complications, and Henry was the spare. If you don't know, there's an old saying, basically have a spare, more or less. As a king, you want a spare, because you never know what happens to your firstborn. Yeah, he's the one that you want to be king, but you never know, so it's always good to have that spare. And Henry was that spare. Henry VIII was that spare. And in more ways than one. His brother was supposed to marry Catherine of Aragon, the princess of Spain. And really, it's mostly to get that nice alliance with Spain. Really nice alliance. But she's actually significantly older than Henry, too. And not like a lot, but still quite a bit older than Henry. But he said he would love her, and he kind of did. He did love her at first. And like a lot of things with Henry VIII's rule, at first, things were alright. People really liked him. He was a very loved king at first. He was very generous. He was a fairly nice guy, if you met him. He was fit. He was handsome. That was the other thing. He was very handsome, considered so. The pictures that you see of him, where he's super overweight and he is more of a not so handsome guy, those are a lot of his later life, when things kind of start to go real rough there for Henry, you could say. But early on, Henry does suffer a jousting accident. That's kind of what a lot of historians and people think might have led to his more crazy personality later on. Because he gets a wound in his leg, and that wound just kind of never heals. It festers for the rest of his life. And, But Catherine of Aragon, she's kind of luckier compared to some of his later wives. Henry does eventually divorce her. She does not produce an heir like he wanted. That's the main reason he divorces her. And he kind of says, "Oh, well, we're not supposed to be married. My brother's wife. Try to get the divorce. Does get it eventually, but Henry VIII, I mean, he does a lot of things just for kind of self-interest. A lot of the divorces, like, the Pope wouldn't. How you get divorced back then? You had to go through the church, and usually there was like a, hey, pay this if you're royalty and you can get away with it. In Henry's case, he didn't necessarily get away with it. The Pope got some evidence, let's say, that Henry was not divorcing for the reasons he said he was divorcing, and was divorcing more for lust. So the Pope denies him, and that infuriates old Henry there. He himself thought of himself as a Catholic his whole life. Henry, early on, was a very devout Catholic, very much loved the Pope, things like that. And even later in life, he would also consider himself a Catholic. Obviously, there's the Church of England, which he founds, But he never thought of it as a Protestant church. He just thought, no, no, I'm still Catholic. I just don't like the Pope. And, you know, personal reasons he doesn't like the Pope, obviously. But, yeah, he would have himself thought of himself as a Catholic. Which is funny, because obviously we see what his daughter does to Catholics later on. And his other daughter does to Protestants, but... yeah. But Henry, interesting figure. There's a good video out there by Oversimplified. If you ever watch it, talked about a lot of this, but talked about Henry's life in more detail than I will here. But Henry is probably what a lot of people think of as a king. You know, when you think of everything about a king, the power, the craziness, all that, Henry really exemplifies that, and that's one of the reasons he's probably one of the most famous kings. That and, well, his story is just full of a little bit of absurdity. But it's really interesting to think that it all started with a young man with a bright future who loved his people and wanted to just do right by them, and ends up an old, bitter man who doesn't really love his people anymore and is trying to do everything in his power to be as strong as he can. But that's going to do it for this video. If you guys liked the video, leave a like. If you have any ways to improve these videos, leave a comment down below. It really does help out. And as always, subscribe. It really helps out the channel. Thank you.